Okay, we're back. Sorry about that, folks. Um, Basically everything went down. So I don't know how far back it was the stream went down, but it was somewhere around here, Pulsemon said, once again taking its physical form in an area just beyond the rusted coast. The place was a dumping ground. Junk data flowed from the wall slum and piled up in this forgotten corner. Nevertheless, this was still part of the firewall, and the wall part of that was a rather loose term. It wasn't actually a solid wall, but more of a soft barrier. There was nothing like it anywhere on Earth. There were a planet out in space made of, say, liquid metal? That would be the easiest comparison. I'm not picking up any readings like the one we're looking for, Pulsemon said as Leon, mind-linked, flipped over to see what Pulsemon was seeing. Let's head down there, Leon said. Pulsemon lowered itself onto the junk data. The ground was full of errors, shifting and glitching and buzzing beneath the Digimon's feet. It's just a floating island of garbage data from the wall slum, huh? Leon said, observing the surroundings. There wasn't so much as a scavenger Digimon in sight. It was strange, though. It looked a lot smaller from above, but now that they were walking on it, it felt impossibly large, as it undulated out before them. There were no buildings, trees, or flowers on it. Just a bunch of meaningless flotsam all piled up in one spot. They might as well have walked past a piece of modern art. Leon looked out to the horizon. The firewall was clearly spherical. It was Earth. No, moon-like. Perhaps even smaller than that, from the look of things at least, and beyond the firewall just on the other side of the squishy barrier lay the depths. How big were they? How far did they go? What all was inside? A planet larger than Earth itself? Another solar system? Another galaxy? A cluster of galaxies? Maybe a comparatively vast and endless well of energy. All humanity had ever seen was the outer husk. You sure this isn't a bad tip, Leon? I don't think the leader of the SOC would show up here, Pulsemon said wearily. The moment it landed directly in my account, I knew it was good. It came from an informed source, Pulsemon. Whether it came from a hacker or code cracker, who could say? Yeah, well, I didn't mean whether it was true or false. I meant if it was given in good faith or bad. And it was exceedingly possible that it was the latter. If it was a false rumor, at least we'll know. It's useful intel. If it's just fake, that's fine, but what if it's a trap? The SOC's still plenty ticked that you crashed their party on the X Nation server. Pulsemon said, increasingly desperate to get Leon to see his side of things. If it's a trap, then we've hit the jackpot. All Leon had to do was turn the tables on the SOC and his legion of codecrackers. This place just looks dangerous is all, Pulsemon said easily, standing atop the flow of visual noise and garbage data. Stay sharp, Pulsemon! Uh-oh, Pulsemon yelped as the visual noise suddenly reached out and grabbed its leg. Howling fire! Ah! A fireball grazed Pulsemon as it tore through the air. Pulsemon backflipped out of the visual noise's grasp. A single smoldering line had been drawn down the island of garbage data, tracing the fireball's path. Well, that was unexpected, Pulsemon chirped, settling into its battle stance. Hey, Pulsemon, Lugumon said, stepping into view. Hey, elite hacker. A mind-link AG followed. Alright. For those of you just joining us, stream did disconnect, but I did manage to get it back up. I do apologize for it being split into two parts. The joys of running a live stream. Technical issues do abound. Alright. The piles of garbage data on this floating island provided the perfect spot from which to launch Lugumon's surprise attack. The island's out-of-the-way location in the waters just off the wall slum made it even more attractive. I was the anonymous tipster who said Tartarus would show up. AG! Leon shouted. Both of them assumed their hololized forms. It was a pretty obvious tactic, but I knew it would get you to show since you're so self-righteously obsessed with taking down the SOC and the code-cracking team. Is it fair to think of you as Tartarus's mouthpiece, then? Are you here to represent the SOC? Yeah, I am. So you're one of the SOC's leaders. Nope, just a rookie. Uh-huh. Minor impulse! A bolt shot out of Pulsemon's spike of hair and gouged a hole in the garbage data just in front of Lugomon. Bits of visual noise scattered to the wind in the wake of the blast. That was close. You're really gonna put up a fight, aren't you, Lugomon? Says the one who tried to hit me with a sneak attack. You little static shock. Filthy mutt. The two Digimon were instantly heated, engaged in an intense standoff. Each had attacked the other while mind-linked, meaning any ensuing fight would literally be life-threatening for Eiji and Leon. Let's cut these useless questions then. I'm not even gonna ask why, Leon growled. Leon, I was happy to see you again. It felt like it was meant to happen, but this is different. You've crossed the line, and you should know what's gonna happen after what you've done to the code crackers. The hackers were going to act like vigilantes. They had to know there would be consequences. Did you put a bounty on our heads or what? Yeah, you're an SOC target. I'll bite. What are the conditions? Never interfere with another SOC operation and we're good. What happened with Machine Dramon on the X Nation server is water under the bridge. Marvin and the other SOC leaders had entrusted Eiji with setting the terms of Leon's punishment. They probably wouldn't be thrilled with his terms, but they wanted him to do it, so this was what they were getting. All Tartarus wanted was a word of apology from Leon. And that's not gonna happen, Leon said flatly. I figured. You hackers have a short fuse, and you don't know when to give up and wash your hands of it, do you? You want to avoid my short fuse? There's only one way to do it. Go on. But I don't want to hear any complaints out of you later on. Give up code cracking. If money's the issue, I might be able to help with that. Financial assistance. What a Leon way of thinking. It irritated Eiji so much that Leon might as well have declared war instead. Did you hear about my plight? Did it tug at your heartstrings and loosen your purse strings? I'm not a robot, Eiji. I can afford to help. I chose this life. I decided this is how I wanted to win the game of life. Now you come to me, and you want me to betray my ideals for money? Eiji could hear his pulse in his temples. He didn't know it was possible to get this worked up in the digital world. Betray your ideals? I don't understand. Isn't the money why you got into code cracking in the first place? A grim expression fell across Leon's face. He couldn't for the life of him understand what Eiji was driving at this outburst. You don't get it. I might be new, but I'm already a pro. Run along back to school and quit messing with my job. Professor Asenji's job? You want to see it through, huh? I don't have to answer to you. I'm a code cracker. And I'm a hacker. I get it. People's thoughts and beliefs divide them up, even when they'd otherwise be on the same side. Leon wouldn't give up hunting down code crackers, not so long as he knew in his heart that it was the right thing to do. Wasn't like hackers and code crackers and really needed a reason to fight anyway. Justice and freedom. At the end of the day, they were a matter of preference. Big, heady concepts you couldn't quickly discuss and be done with it. Not in this setting, anyway. Leon turned his eyes away from Eiji, who soon followed Leon's gaze. I've seen a ton of code crackers pass through the professor's office. He uses them up and tosses them out like so much trash. Leon said with a smoke hacker's grin. What did you say? No sooner had the words left Eiji's mouth than he noticed Pulsemon was no longer standing next to Leon. Electric Rush! In an instant, Pulsemon was right on top of them, ready to tackle Lugomon. At the last possible moment, Lugomon leapt into the air as Pulsemon passed beneath. Both landed back on the wobbly, floating island, squared off toward one another. Don't go near the teacher, you disposable cracker, and don't take advantage of him. Leon shouts. He was right. Right on the mark. AG is trying to use Professor Senji to win in the digital world, to change his real life, which has fallen and become covered in shit. What's wrong with that? Everyone starts out as a kid with nothing. Those who are blessed like Leon are chosen from the beginning by fate, luck, or God. I have been a member of Senji Temple since I was an elementary student. You've revealed your true feelings, AG retorted. No matter what you call a hacker or a cracker or what you think is righteous or whatever, you're Leon. If crackers come near you, it'll tarnish the teacher's reputation. In essence, you just don't want anyone else to get close to Professor Senji, right, elite hacker? They used words to dig into each other's hearts. AG never thought he could be so aggressive towards someone, but this is not a school. No one ever tells you to be friends with anyone when you become an adult. It's pointless and impossible. Only a con man would say something like that. If you want to live, if you're serious about it, you're bound to bump into someone. You're going to fight. And crackers cannot afford to lose on the network. If winning is enough for you, if you want to lose your partner Digimon that badly, Pulsemon! Digivolution! Leon deactivated his hollow eyes and evolved his Digimon. In a flash, the Digimon brawler AG saw on the X-Nation server was back, massive beads encircling its head. Thrust! Kick! Defend! Ha! Boutmon was amping itself up. Its fists breathed in lightning. A long, muscular leg sliced through the air before smashing back down onto the ground, causing the entire floating island to tremble. Boutmon took a deep breath. The karate kata practice was complete. The fight was about to begin. Keep it together. Boutmon's as powerful as we expected, Lugomon said, sizing up their opponent. Marvin was lucky to escape last time, but today we're gonna beat him, Adri barked. Wouldn't be in a dangerous place like this if I weren't ready for a fight. This was, after all, where vortexes came from. AG and Lugomon figured it would make the perfect place for a showdown. Lugomon, Digivolve. Lugomon assumed their Lugomon form as AG cut his hololization. His line of sight merged with Lugomon's. The fiery wolf and electric pugilist stared at one another down from the floating island of garbage data that was their battlefield. Still stuck at champion, I see. But I don't think for a moment I'll let my guard down, AG, Leon said to himself. Neither he nor Boutmon could afford to get complacent. Let's go, Lugomon, just like we planned. Ready, Lugomon growled, glaring at Boutmon. Hey, Static Shock! I don't want to hear any crying. All the fur on Lugomon's body stood on end and began gathering energy. Howling Burner! Hello, Mark. Welcome in. We did have to restart the stream because we got force disconnected. I don't know why. I did have to take a couple breaks during the last part because I needed to eat and then clean up after eating. But we're back. Fire whipped across the surface of the garbage data, rising up to form a wall of pure, unextinguishable flame. What exactly is the plan here? Leon muttered to himself. The massive wall of flames had effectively hidden Lugarmon from Boutmon's vision. But why? What was the goal? This wasn't like their scuffle on the X-Nation server, however. They would have to trade blows, prod one another for weaknesses. This fight had to end with a victor. Lightning Heel! Boutmon raised their leg above their head and brought it sweeping to the ground, straight towards the wall of fire. The flames weren't extinguished, but they parted for the briefest of moments. There, just beyond the flames, was Lugarmon. Welcome, Lugarmon bellowed. Leon and Boutmon let out a confused grunt. Had Lugarmon just been waiting there? Flame blow! Lugarmon leapt at Boutmon from point-blank range, countering with a flaming charge attack. They'd left themselves wide open. There was no time left to block. They were about to get a belly full of flaming Lugarmon. Boutmon shuffled back, feet kicking up clouds of garbage data, and held their ground. Hang in there, Boutmon. I know the fire's irritating, but it only deals so much damage coming from a champion. What? Fire breath! Out of nowhere, jets of fire closed in on Boutmon from 3 different directions, leaving only enough time to strengthen their guard as the flames enveloped them. What the? This fire isn't from Lugomon. Leon howled in confusion, eyes darting around in search of its source. He suddenly noticed multiple little heads poking out from the shadows of the garbage data pile. Tyrannomon! Where were they hiding? Leon counted 3 of them. They were indeed Digimon with a Digicore just like Pulsemon's, but they didn't sound like any rookie Tyrannomon Leon had ever heard. They sounded calmer. Trained. The Mind Linker could also synchronize with any Digimon linkers being worn or connected Digimon docks to share information, allowing people to bring additional Digimon into the digital world, though they wouldn't be mind-linked. They could still be controlled with tools. Any additional Digimon could also be stored for use as bots. Why didn't you pick up on them, Boutmon? We're standing on a hunk of garbage. Too much noise, not enough signal. The entire island appeared to be flooding the Digimon sensors with junk data they then had to sort through. Do you think AG and Lugarmon know? I think they do. This was a trap, Leon, Boutmon hissed. It dawned on Leon that they knew, and had chosen this place deliberately. Leon gritted his teeth. What's the play? Looks like the Codecrackers actually got something of a plan. Leon surveyed the situation. The Tyrannomon wouldn't be able to do anything fancy if they were just running routines from a tool, but they could hide and attack from the shadows. They didn't have to help AG win. They just had to be annoying. And they weren't on the clock like Lugarmon and Boutmon, because they weren't mind-linked. I'll beat you, Leon, even if I have to use every trick in the book to do it, AG shouted from Lugarmon's Digicore. What do Codecrackers consider winning, exactly? Everything you do flies in the face of the law. You dress up your egotism and call it freedom. Codecrackers this, Codecrackers that. Quit lumping us all together, AG yelled. Leon kept quiet. I, me, and Lugarmon, we're gonna win. Over and over and over again. We're going to succeed without the pity from you and your upper-crust friends. We'll show you all, right here in the digital world. Commands flew by on the virtual monitor at the speed of AG's thoughts. The Tyrannomon retreated back into the piles of garbage data. It would be game over if Boutmon got too close to them. There were only 3 of them, and all tool-controlled rookies at that. Ha! With a single quick shout, Boutmon once again focused its energy and shook off the few remaining flames. They then reset their stance. A single hand stretched out like a blade in Lugarmon's direction, and lifted one leg. With a sudden tilt of their shoulders, Boutmon smashed one foot into the ground. They were using a Bajiquan technique to bring all their weight down on first one leg, then the other. With each stomp, the garbage data beneath them sank further down, and shockwaves rippled across the island. Boutmon was charging up. AG! Come at me! Lugarmon had a howling burner ready, aimed directly at Boutmon. Bouden Blast! Boutmon released all the energy it had stored up from the palms of its hands. Lugarmon unleashed a howling burner. What the? Boom! Fire and lightning came crashing together between the two of them, resulting in a violent explosion. The aftermath of each other's attacks hit each other. Lugarmon turned around and distanced himself. Attack! Boutmon didn't dodge. On the contrary, he rushes into the explosion and quickly closes the distance. A rush of kicks and fists. Continuous attacks from short range catch Lugarmon. Storm of blows! I'm gonna put an end to... Grah! Once again, the Tyrannomon reared their heads and covered Boutmon in fire, giving AG and Lugarmon just enough time to put some distance between themselves and Boutmon. Damn it, stupid Tyrannomon! Leon shouted, his language uncharacteristically coarse. Calm down, Leon. That was a good move. You nearly had me. Boutmon pointed at Lugarmon, whose fur once again stood on end as they stared down their opponent. Lugarmon appeared to be smiling, but they were breathing heavily. It's working. We'll wear them down at this rate. That's the plan, Boutmon, but we can't just win, Leon said with no small amount of menace. We have to beat them to the ground. We don't want this to be a good fight. We want it to be an overwhelming victory. We'll never get AG to give up code cracking if we don't. We'll show him just how meaningless, how powerless code crackers are. Mind and body, consciousness and Digimon. In that event, I can't guarantee Lugarmon's safety. Just its Digicore intact. That's all you have to do. Leon seethed. Overpower and overwhelm. That was the strategy. Which meant those 3 little Tyrannomon were in the way. You're no good against a crowd, Bautmon. We're outmatched for the moment, but we can tip the odds in our favor. Understood. I'll give it everything I've got. Bautmon, Digivolve! A flash of lightning lit up the island. Kazuchimon, Mega, Deity, Vaccine. The force of the blast sent more junk data from the island flying in every direction. This was it. The fierce thunder god Kazuchimon had arrived, announcing themselves with a mighty roar. Dang it, why does the Mega Digivolution have to look so damn cool? I'd like to Digivolve too, you know. But even if Lugermon did Digivolve, they'd have to keep their distance. The pressure had just increased tenfold. The Tyrannomon are wetting themselves as they put their tails between their legs. We shouldn't push them. Get back, all of you. Come on home, Tyrannobodies, AG chirped, gathering them back into their dock. What are you plotting now, AG? Don't worry. Soon you'll never have to think again. Kazuchimon took a step forward. Their jagged lightning blades still pointed at the ground. AG gulped hard. You codecrackers will never defeat the hackers for one simple reason. You lack convictions. Kazuchimon, now! Shido Atetsu! Thunderheads covered the sky. Kazuchimon lifted their hand, executing a piece of code, and in an instant it was as if time and space had been split open. What on earth? Iji could scarce believe his own eyes. It's a digital barrier. They're trying to trap us in their own private link, Lugarmon yelled. They tried to escape, but it was too late. The electromagnetic barrier had already touched down, cutting them off from the rest of the digital world. Kazuchimon flicked their blade with the utmost precision, and the next instant set about cleanly and clinically slicing apart the garbage data that stood between them and Lugarmon. Lugarmon scrounged around, scooped up a clump of something with their tail, and aimed, and let it fly with a precise flick of their own. The clump struck the inner wall of the barrier with a zap, followed by a violent pop as it exploded into perfectly charred chunks from the force of its electrocution. It's an electrified fence, Lugarmon said softly, more like a bud zapper. Touch it and we'll both be burnt to a crisp. AG recalled the contraptions, which convenience stores used to hang under their eaves. AG was suddenly overcome with a wave of sympathy for all the bugs. Being trapped in an electrified field ring for a fight to the death would do that. At any rate, the trapper was now the trapped. We can't break this barrier. Mega Digimon have too many techniques at their disposal. Hey, Static Shock! Lugarmon called out. Kazuchimon didn't even acknowledge the comment, much less respond. At the far end of the Digivolution tree, Digimon become incredibly advanced creatures. In time, they come to act like gods and demons, and become estranged from their own brethren. Kazuchimon is one such Digimon. What, too good to talk to me now? Lugarmon continued, trying to goad Kazuchimon. You think you're a god now or something? I got a lot to say to you, pal. Look down here. Next time I see you, it's gonna be a real big fight. I mean, I'm really gonna beat you down. Who's the bigger one here? Leon asked, responding to Lugarmon's repeated calls. Shut up, meat sack. The Digimon are talking. Let's have it out. Find out which one of us is stronger once and for all. Still ignoring me? Fine, have it your way. Lugarmon babbled on, taking the bit as far as it could possibly go. We've got this, Lugarmon, Eiji said, pumping them both up. Sure do. We can talk once we've wrapped this up. There was still no escape, let alone a place to escape to. Maybe don't say it quite so confidently. Wouldn't want to jinx it. Leon and Kazuchimon continued their steady march, the latter exhaling sharply as they slashed the air with their blades, which winked in and out of existence as their speed exceeded what the naked eye could perceive. You're gonna be real upset when you lose, but don't worry, it'll be quick, Leon said softly. Nito Sarai! Eiji barely managed to hold back a shriek of pain. It truly felt as if he'd been sliced in two, from the top of the shoulders and through the torso. And that was just the air blast from the slash, Lugarmon lamented. So long as Eiji was linked to Lugarmon's Digicore, he wouldn't actually be hurt, but would share in Lugarmon's pain each time they took a blow. In the event the core was damaged or destroyed, of course, Eiji's consciousness would be trapped, and he'd be DMIA. This floating pile of garbage data would become his grave. I made a mistake. What? Eiji couldn't immediately figure out what Leon meant. I shouldn't give you money or sympathy. No, that's not what you wanted, was it? What you really wanted was failure. What are you talking about, Leon? You want to win so badly, but you're unsure of yourself, so you talk a big game. But if you can't win, if you lose to me and just listen to what I have to say, all your worries will disappear. Say you'll give up code cracking. No, I'll break you of the sickness that keeps you in the clutches of those degenerates. Yes, that's the best I can do for you. No, that wasn't Leon. That was Kazuchimon talking. He was embodying a godlike being of the digital world, and now it was speaking through him. Eiji knew Kazuchimon would make good on their words, regardless of what Eiji wanted. All he could do was struggle helplessly against his fate. He so desperately wanted to win. Losing was not an option. I want to change my life here in the digital world. I want to change my pitiful, anxious, wretched, miserable loser life, Eiji screamed. Scenes flashed before his eyes. The times he tried to make Professor Senji proud. The times when he got utterly absorbed in his code-cracking work. Working with Lugarmon to digivolve them. The only time he truly forgot his worries in the real world was when he and Lugamon were training to get stronger. The more powerful he got, the more success he had as a code cracker. Leon, without you, no. I'm even better because of you, in spite of you. Leon was in Eiji's way. He'd just shown up again after all these years, and now he was trying to steal everything away. Together they would win. Together they would win. Eiji had to win. Digivolution. Eiji and Lugarmon needed way, way, way more power. Otherwise, all the lofty words and pretty promises they'd made would go up in smoke. Lugarmon, Digivolve! Eiji, no! Come on, Digivolve to your ultimate form. Kazuchimon exhaled sharply once more as they raised their twin blades high above their head. I'm gonna finish you off with Kazuchimon's ultimate technique. Another sharp exhalation. Eiji knew what was coming. The massive attack Kazuchimon had used to slaughter Machine Dramon on the X-Nation server. Shinden summoning lightning! Electricity crackled around the tips of Kazuchimon's crossed blades as the attack began to charge. Time and space seemed to condense. It wouldn't take long, but the Shido Itetsu would make sure it landed. There was no escape. You want me to walk all over you on my way to the top? Fine. Because I'm gonna win! Eiji shouted at the top of his lungs from within the Digicore. Lugarmon! Digivolve! That creature can digivolve no further. The soft glow of digivolution faded, revealing a writhing black mass where Lugarmon had been just moments before. That creature had no legs, like a snake, yet it was covered in legs, like some sort of insect. It wriggled, scrapped, and clawed across the ground with alarming speed, making the most of the surprise generated by its hideous form. The next instant, it was right in front of Kazuchimon, sinking its teeth into the deity's throat. Kazuchimon had no choice but to undo the stance of his technique while swinging his pair of thunder swords, trying to forcibly tear off the bitten thing. However, its black fangs could not bite into Kazuchimon's thick neck. Eiji's consciousness was suddenly shut out of information. Silent Digicore. What? Strange. The virtual monitor was blue-screened. It was in error recovery mode. From Eiji's point of view, all he knew was that it was biting Kazuchimon's neck. The exceedingly strange part was that he couldn't sense his partner Digimon's presence. He input a command, but got no response. What on earth had become of Eiji's partner Digimon? My commands aren't getting through. My tools are disconnected. Hey, Lugarmon, did you digivolve? Hey, where are you? The loud roar assaulted Eiji's ears. He was almost certain blood would start trickling out of them any minute now. He slammed his fist against the blue-screen monitor in desperation. The error occurred again, but at least this time it was accompanied by the bare minimum of information. Ultimate. Demon Beast. Virus. Eiji's partner had reached ultimate level, at least as far as the stats were concerned. They'd done it. The Digivolution was a success. Eiji kept trying to call out to the partner whose name he no longer knew. But there was no response save for the meaningless noise which sounded like the low growls and rumbles of a beast. Lugarmon digivolved. They made it to the ultimate level. Together they would win. They did this in order to win, but this was a mistake. The thing was going berserk. Eiji heard a voice over his comms. Kazuchimon's voice. Leon's voice. Your Digivolution failed, Eiji. It's out of control, Leon shouted. Eiji's consciousness felt what would be the blood draining from his face were he in his body. Out of control? Failed? Eiji repeated, absent-mindedly. As Digimon digivolve, their specs get a boost. Their attack, stamina, speed, and perception values all go up, and the process may also dramatically increase their processing speed. The process isn't always smooth, though. Errors can and do occur. Like an insect failing to fully transform in its chrysalis, or a vulnerable, freshly molted crustacean. Except when a Digimon fails to evolve, it can cause them to go berserk. Text streamed down Eiji's monitor, error codes, endless streams of them. No, there's no such thing as a success or failure with Digivolutions. The professor said so himself, so I take that back. But you've lost control of your Digimon, Eiji, Leon said. Eiji could just about make out Leon's voice above the sea of noise and feedback. Eiji's sensors were still online, so the creature hadn't lost consciousness or otherwise shut down. The mind link was still active too, but Eiji couldn't communicate with it, either mentally or through the usual tools and interfaces. You dug your own grave, Eiji, forcing it to digivolve like this. Leon's voice rose above the noise again. I forced Lugarmon to evolve? Eiji asked, stunned. We can consciously encourage Digivolution over the mind link, but it's a double-edged sword. The Digimon is heavily influenced by its partner's consciousness when it's digivolved that way. Well, that explains it. I digivolved Lugarmon so we can defeat you. But why? At what cost? Then what? Why? Eiji, whether you acknowledge it or not, just look. Look at this misshapen, out-of-control ultimate level Digimon. Lugarmon, ultimate, dark beast, virus. Kazuchimon's scan turned up a name. Lugarmon. Marked with mind link and berserk tags. The hideous image of the now hideous partner Digimon burned itself into Eiji's consciousness. The Hellfire Demon Wolf. Its upper body was now lifted off the ground. Its arms more muscular, making it almost bipedal compared to Lugarmon. That upper body, however, was now completely skeletal. The jaw now clamped down on Kazuchimon was just that, an exposed jawbone. Its massive teeth sunk into its rival's neck. Massive claws erupted from the ends of the bone arms. Where there would be meat on those bones, there was now pure hellfire. Its legs were completely wrapped in what looked like dark bandages. Its once fluffy tail was now a fiery whip of bones and flame. Ultimate level Lugarmon. That was the deity-eating wolf's final form? Had Fenrir, the wolf who kills Odin in the legends of Ragnarok, been real, Eiji imagined this is more or less what he'd looked like. But why? Why had this happened? The answer was obvious, and Leon had said it himself. Eiji willed it to happen. This is my fault? He'd done it to win. He just wanted to win. Even if that meant crushing Leon underfoot. He wanted to be strong enough to win. He had asked, and he had received. Lugarmon would win. It might sacrifice the lives of others, or its partner, or itself, but it would win. Anything it couldn't eat would crush underfoot. Eiji couldn't stop it as much as he wanted to now. It had a firm grip on Kazuchimon's windpipe, and it wasn't about to let go. Lugarmon, buddy, come back to me. Eiji carried on screaming, but there were no commands being issued. Eiji, locked in his partner's digicore, was just more noise. Leon analyzed the data on his monitor through the pain of the attack on Kazuchimon. Lugarmon's got a virus attribute. Its instincts are to corrode and destroy. Seeing as how it was no longer listening to its partner, it was likely to destroy any data that happened to land in front of it, and continue to do so until it, just like a virus, was itself destroyed. I just don't understand. How could a mega-level Digimon like Kazuchimon get caught flat-footed by an ultimate? Was it all down to the sheer potential of Eiji's connection with his Digimon? Leon felt the first tendrils of anxiety creep over him. An alert went off, drawing his attention. Kazuchimon, what's... Ah! His eyes darted to the timer almost instinctively. The C line. He couldn't stay mind-linked much longer. "You've dug your grave too, Leon," Ag said feebly. "Was this your plan? To wait me out?" The caution line and limit line, as defined by Professor Usenji, represented mind-linking's biggest risk. Ag and Leon had accepted that risk in order to have a chance at reaping the rewards. True hackers and code crackers weren't looking for peace of mind in the digital world in the first place. Anyone who did was a mark. And here they were, putting their time, their lives on the line for a chance to stake their claim to something in the digital world. "Leon, no matter how good of a hacker you are, you can't fire off a bunch of mega-level attacks in addition to maintaining this electromagnetic barrier," Ag continued. He knew Leon was rapidly running out of time inside that Mega Digimon, and that using any sort of attack would drastically reduce that time. Leon said nothing in response. "I figured if I could drive you near the sea line, we'd be on equal footing for the first time. Then I could Digivolve Lugarmon, and, well, then Lugarmon went berserk." "Ag, I'm sorry. I did this to you. It's my fault." Ag wanted to win, even if that meant trampling Leon underfoot. Professor Usenji would finally see that he was better than Leon. Those who have nothing need a dream, a goal that drives them. They long to carve out a space in the invasive plant that the Tree of Freedom has allowed to flourish. They want to stop fighting to simply survive. They long to be free of a life in which they cannot see beyond today. Ag didn't want pity. He didn't want help. He just wanted to be able to support himself as a code cracker. He'd begun to equate the removal of his jealousy for Leon with the removal of Leon himself. Leon could just go away. It had all happened unconsciously, but somewhere deep down, Ag had been very aware of its every step of the way. The flames of jealousy consumed him, and now the fangs of his own insecurity were buried in the flesh of his perceived enemy. He basked in the blood that flowed down upon him. Ag saw himself as if he were looking in a mirror. Ready or not, this wild Lugarmon was about to make his wish come true. A wish whose implications he had admittedly not thought through. "We had judged right where we wanted him, and I forced you to Digivolve. I'm sorry, buddy." Lugarmon's power was undeniable. They overwhelmed the Mega Digimon in their ultimate form. Of course, this came at the cost of Ag turning them into a monstrosity. Still, both of them had to win here. Ag stood to lose so much more if they didn't. And yet, Ag felt the urge to fight evaporate. "Focus, Ag. Your willpower is all that can stop this beast rampage. It's still your partner Digimon," Leon shouted, snapping Ag back to reality. I'm trying, but it's not." The sounds of the various errors popping up inside the Digicore cut Ag off as he tried everything he could to restore his connection with Lugarmon. Command not found. "I can't hear them. I can't hear my Digimon's voice." "Ugh!" Leon struggled, but Kazuchimon couldn't move. The Lugarmon's strength was enough to hold them in place. The Lugarmon was physically larger and beginning to inflict damage that reached the Digicore. "Get out of there, Leon! Run! You're out of time!" Ag screamed. The will to fight was gone. "I'm not giving up until you swear to me you'll quit code cracking. I'm going to save you no matter what it takes." "The hell?" Ag was baffled. Why was Leon so committed to this? Why was he so fixated on Ag's code cracking? They were close friends, sure, but they hadn't been in elementary school for ages. They'd forgotten about each other until they had bumped into one another on the X Nation server. They didn't even hang out that much in the real world. If it weren't for Professor Usenji and the Digimon, their paths might never have crossed again. "Why? Why can't you let it go?" Ag asked. Leon was quiet. "I know you've got a reason." He expected Leon would say he had to protect Professor Usenji's reputation again. But there was no reason to make Ag, specifically, give up code cracking. As a hacker, all Leon had to do was ensure that code crackers were destroyed. Kill them all. If Ag was gone, then... WWW Flight 626. What? The flight that took Ag's parents from him. "There's more to the story. It's earth-shattering, Ag," Leon began to say before a grating high-pitched squeal cut him off. Kazuchimon finally succeeded in prying Lugarmon's jaws loose from its neck, proceeded to twist its back toward the beast before launching Lugarmon over its head in a perfectly executed judo throw. Lugarmon flew straight into the Shido Itetsu's electromagnetic barrier. Pure energy coursed through Lugarmon, and Eiji swore he could smell his own flesh burning. He briefly lost consciousness. The Lugarmon, singed by the shocks, was flung to the ground where it lay writhing in pain. Its form was at once wolf-like and anything but. Its body was covered in the fires of sin, and atop it lay the skull of a beast that may have, once been a wolf. It was a failure of humankind's own making. Its eyes mirrored AG's. I have to reboot. No, into recovery mode, AG said, giving up on restoring access to his tools and turning to his last resort. The safest thing to do when a Digivolution went wrong was to roll back to rookie level. It was the only way. AG typed the command directly into the blue screen before him. Come back, pal. Come on, Lugamon. AG shouted as he sent the command over and over and over. AG had a feeling being mind-linked to a Digimon that had gone berserk wasn't all that different from approaching the sea line. Kazuchimon stood motionless, tending to its grievous wounds. The textures destroyed by her Lugramon's bite were bleeding blood filled with static noise. It flowed down Kazuchimon's body, dripping off its armor and pooling on the ground. WWW Flight 626 crashed because of a Digimon. It was a terror attack facilitated by the X Nation and carried out by Machine Dramon, Leon said, breaking the silence. Machine Dramon? The cause of the flight's disappearance and crash had long ago been listed as unknown, but AG knew a Digimon was behind it, since he started his journey as a code cracker. This was the first he'd heard of any specifics, however. If Leon was telling the truth, what would AG have done, had he known during the attack on the X Nation's server? Digimon were still tools, so he probably would have followed orders and collected Machine Dramon, the Digimon that destroyed his life. I put the pieces together when we were talking at the cafe. I didn't know your parents were on that flight. I didn't look too closely at the passenger manifest. I'm sorry, Leon said. Why are you apologizing? AG said, puzzled. Didn't have anything to do with Leon, did it? There was a fierce battle being waged on the network while the flight was in the air. The U.S. Army's cyber counterterrorism unit was working to prevent the terrorist code-cracking team from downing the flight. You're serious? So the United States Army had its own version of Japan's Digipolice? Not stopping that accident. That terrorist attack is my biggest regret. It hurts me to think about it even now, but I won't forget it. So I have to confront it and overcome it. I was at the scene of a terrorist attack, AG, working to prevent it as a hacker. Leon was in high school. Fought a group of terrorists alongside a group of hacker cops, trying to stop a Digimon from committing an act of cyber warfare. That wasn't the scene of a terrorist attack. It was a war zone. He'd just learned how to mind link under his own power, and he was helpless to stop what was happening. He couldn't keep up with the superior team or codecrackers he was up against. The terrorists broke through the Army's landing defenses and completed their mission. The rest was history. WWW Flight 626 crashed into the Pacific, killing everyone on board. I couldn't save your parents, even though I had the chance, Leon said mournfully. Why? I still don't understand why you'd apologize. Because you were my best friend, AG. Leon always said what he meant. He was honest to a fault. You didn't kill them. That messed up dictator from the X Nation and his team of terrorist codecrackers did. AG hadn't changed his mind. AG had no reason to be mad at Leon for the deaths of his parents, so why did he feel the need to apologize? But it's my responsibility as a hacker to uphold justice on the network, Leon said. If you continue down this path on a codecracker, you'll be caught up in a Flight 626 situation of your own someday. You might even be the one committing the act of terror itself. Quit treating codecrackers like we're all the same. I wouldn't do that. Are you sure? You've already helped the SOC attack the X Nation's servers, and now you're letting your Digimon run amok. Whether he'd intended to or not, AG started to see a path where he would eventually do as Leon said. He was quickly running out of counter-arguments. I will break the cycle of pain and anguish created by the Digimon crimes you and yours commit. That's why I became a hacker. To fight for justice. To put it in AG's terms, this is my life, my livelihood. I can't let you destroy it. I'm gonna save you instead. Kazuchimon raised their twin lightning blades once more. AG was stunned. I've crossed the sea line, but I can spare one more attack's worth of time. Dispel the Shido Atetsu, Kazuchimon. We've got to stop that Halugarmon. Then I'm going to take you back to the real world, AG. Before Kazuchimon could make a move, however, an awful roar tore through the air, scrambling their senses. The ground shook beneath them, sending small shockwaves through Kazuchimon's body. What the heck? I can't... What's going on? AG yelled, disoriented. He couldn't stand the noise. It was less like someone struck a massive temple bell next to his ear, and more like he'd been tossed into some sort of junkyard scrapper, tearing apart a car, or dropped into a compactor, crunching down on a bunch of metal. What on earth? Leon yelled. He told his first lie. He didn't have enough time. The electromagnetic barrier created by his Shido Utetsu began to crack open. No. Have I hit Kazuchimon's limit already? Leon's voice cracked. He watched as the once impenetrable barrier his Digimon constructed briefly tore apart, then shattered like so much thin ice. Kazuchimon hadn't lowered the barrier. Something had broken it from the outside. The barrier shattered to reveal a massive hole. A vortex. The yawning, wire-framed chasm looked like a gigantic black hole. Kazuchimon's barrier had kept them completely unaware of the vortex forming right next to them. Now they were right on top of the latest vortex to spawn from this well-known hotbed of vortex activity. AG heard Marvin's warning echo in his head, never approach a vortex. AG had no real frame of reference for how big this one was compared to the others, but it had to be at least as big as a soccer stadium. It moved slowly, spinning as it went, sucking up any and all data in its path, including the junk data that formed the island beneath them. Something began to emerge from the depths. Mega. Type. Holy Knight. Attribute. Vaccine. It is known as a Holy Knight, a guardian deity, one of the 13 Royal Knights of Yggdrasil, and many other titles. Though it had no wings, it looked like an angel adorned in battle armor. Royal Knight Omegamon! AG and Leon exclaimed. It was humanoid in form, and on its right arm sat the Supreme Cannon, capable of freezing stars with a beam fired at absolute zero. On its left arm sat the Transcendent Sword, a peerless blade, with which it was now inscribing system-level code for the digital world. Delete all. Hello, Jesse. Welcome in. We're almost done with this arc. AG began to see the light, the big, bright light everyone says to avoid. Halugarmon, the Hellfire Demon Wolf, had taken the brunt of the Holy Knight Digimon's blast, leaving half their body frozen solid. Deep inside the Digicore, AG, his consciousness anyhow, quietly ceased breathing. AG's last memory would be of a cold so far below freezing, felt like everything was on fire. No amount of concentration could overcome the shock of the cold. He felt as though his entire body, such as he conceived of it inside the Digicore, was stiffening, with no amount of concentration that could force his muscles to move. He treaded water, desperate to stay conscious and focused inside the Digicore as it threatened to grind to a halt. It was all slipping away. The Digicore, AG's consciousness, his life. Poor Halugarmon. The misshapen, misbegotten, unformed ultimate Digimon was now frozen in place, convulsing and unable to run wild and free. Omegamon raised the Transcendent Sword with its left hand. The Royal Knights were Digivolved to destroy. They were Mega Digimon, but also in a class all their own. Their specs were immeasurable and unknown. No one had ever successfully communicated with one, and thus no one knew what their goals were if they had any. Delete all. The moment the Transcendent Sword on which those words were engraved ran through Halugarmon, they'd become so many scraps in the vortex. AG's consciousness would be consumed by digital noise. It was all hopeless now. AG confronted certain death for the first time in his life, and there was nothing he could do about it. It would visit upon him soon enough. He had to let go of his obsession with winning. Let go of his life. AG felt the force of a blow, but not on his body. Something had come between Halugarmon and Omegamon. Halugarmon! I know that voice. AG swore he heard Pulsemon's voice, the little static shock. He focused his attention on the virtual monitor. Leon? It was Kazuchimon. They'd charged from the side and tackled Omegamon, wrapping up the Digimon's leg and letting momentum and gravity take over. AG watched as both Digimon dropped into the gaping maw of the vortex. The Digimon fell, intertwined into the deep, dark pit of the vortex. Omegamon glared at AG and Halugamon as it steadily, rhythmically thrust its elbow into Kazuchimon's back. Kazuchimon held fast, dragging the knight down into the unknown. Kazuchimon had made its choice. They fell deeper, and deeper, and deeper still, until they were both out of sight. AG! A voice called out. A voice. Leon's voice, crackling and distant. So distant. He was still in Kazuchimon's Digicore. Leon, let go! You'll drop straight into the vortex! AG screamed. This is a royal knight, stronger than Mega. Holy Knight, the last... Leon's voice was cutting out more frequently now, but AG knew Omegamon was one of the system administrator's gatekeepers, tasked with guarding the firewall. There was no way AG would be able to communicate with it. He also knew that Omegamon would do its duty, prevent any real-world data from entering the digital world. Impartially, fairly, instantly. This holy knight would bring Leon and Kazuchimon a swift death. Leon! Leo! I'm sorry, AG. I can't hear you anymore. I don't even know if you can hear me. I tried to save you. I'm so sorry. I just didn't know what else to... Silence. One last sharp elbow loosened Kazuchimon's grip. Omegamon, finally free, turned to flee the vortex. Shido Otatsu! Kazuchimon's electromagnetic barrier formed once more. You're not getting away. Leon used the last of his mind-link power to seal Omegamon in with him. It wouldn't be quite so easy for the inscrutable Digimon to break this time. The inside of the barrier is stronger than the outside. I'm not going to let you lay a finger on my friend. Kazuchimon grabbed Omegamon from behind, wrapping its arms up in a full Nelson hold. Omegamon relinquished its focus on Halugamon and contorted its neck at odd angles, spinning its head around until it could look Kazuchimon in the eye. Leon stared into the eyes of an angel of death. Neither Leon nor Kazuchimon loosened their grip. Leon was a hacker, and this was righteous and just. You're not going anywhere. I'm all yours for as long as I've got left. Kazuchimon and Omegamon continued their descent into the vortex. They were nearly through. That's when it happened. They're through! AG yelped. The virtual monitor was suddenly free of errors, and his commands were finally registering. AG was back in touch with his partner Digimon, Halugamon, finally freed the freezing blast from Omegamon's supreme cannon, forced themselves into recovery mode and downgraded to rookie, back to the fuzzy little wolf who spent so many nights curled up on the loft in AG's apartment. Lugamon, hang in there, buddy. AG, what's happening? Lugamon was okay. AG was still conscious and his tools were back online. That means the Digicore was also likely intact. AG enjoyed a brief moment of relief before calling out to Leon, who had just sacrificed himself to spare them both Omegamon's wrath. Get out of there, Leon. I get it. I've lost. I'll think about quitting code cracking. Just get out of there. He had no way of knowing if Leon would ever hear those words. Alert! 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 Alarms were going off inside Kazuchimon's Digicore, with Leon's consciousness locked inside. The mind-link timer on the virtual monitor tool had long since hit 0. He was well over the limit line now. Kazuchimon, arms still locked around Omegamon, disappeared into the depths of the vortex. A moment later, the hole in the firewall closed without a sound. AG tended to Lugamon's injuries as they sat alone on the island of garbage data. There was nothing more to do. An ambulance rushed its patient to the hospital, attached to the Tokyo University of Electrical and Computer Engineering. He was found unresponsive in his apartment. The emergency room quickly routed them to the ICU, where they now lie in a deep coma. Their vital signs are low, but within normal levels. An extensive examination of the brain would likely yield no outward signs of injury or trauma. The patient is in physically fine shape. The patient was seeing a therapist and prescribed medication, but there was zero indication of an overdose. For all intents and purposes, the patient was in an inexplicable coma. What an unfortunate turn of events, Professor Asenji said, looking at his student. Several hours prior, Risenji received word from AG that Leon had crossed over the limit line and was now lost. AG said it was his fault, that he was also mind-linked but managed to return alive. AG didn't know Leon's address, and so contacted the professor, desperate to get Leon any help he could. Risenji called an ambulance and let them into the apartment for which he had a key, since it had been arranged in his name. There they found Leon unresponsive and transported him to Tokyo Electrical's hospital. Leon was officially DMIA. There was no way to return his consciousness to his body. It was forever fused to the digicore of his partner Digimon. Did you ever meet Yuling, Leon? Professor Risenji said idly to himself, trying to piece things together. He knew he'd have to tell the police, and given the circumstances, the Digi-Police, everything he knew. Leon was an American, and the son of a scholar who was aware of the digital world. That would create its own complications. This was about the worst possible thing that could happen in the course of digital world research. Professor Risenji picked up the Digimon linker that the doctors had removed from Leon during surgery and put it back on his wrist. You knew one too many lies, I'm afraid, he said, softly to Leon. He looked up at one of the many monitors tracking Leon's vitals and watched as the line tracking his pulse weakly registered in jagged bleeps across the screen. AG might as well have blacked out after he told Professor Risenji that Leon was DMIA. He curled up on the futon in the loft of his tiny apartment, periodically screaming or yelping as the anxiety and creeping dread built up inside him. He had to win, he told himself. He willed his victory into existence, only to watch as it crumbled into utter defeat. He digivolved only to lose. He reached the ultimate level and was betrayed by a power he could not control. The person he threatened to trample over on his way to the top had sacrificed himself to protect him from a royal knight, an avatar of death. Leon wasn't coming back. Leon's consciousness straddled the boundary between the real world and the digital world. Leon's body was left behind in a coma, and he remains unidentified to this day, a sleep from which he will never recover. AG could scream his name all he wanted, but Leon would never hear it. This shore and the other shore. Either way, Leon Alexander is now dead. He's gone. He's gone beyond the wall. Kazuchimon said. Pulsemon is gone. I'm forever lost. Even if the Royal Knights. His consciousness would have already become fused with his Digicore, according to Risenji. No one has ever naturally regained consciousness after being in a DMIA state. AG let Leon die. That's what it amounted to. He'd spent all this time sharpening his codecracker skills, but in the end, it wasn't enough to save anybody. It's my fault. I killed Leon. AG whimpered. His insides lurched. He threw his hand up to cover his mouth, clattered down the ladder from his loft, and flew to the toilet. He hastily flipped the lid and vomited pure bile and stomach acid into the grimy toilet. His mouth burned, but he didn't even have the energy to wash the bitter taste out of his mouth. Your Digimon linker readings are a mess, AG. Lugamon scolded, looking down from the loft. Lugamon was strangely healthy and upbeat given the circumstances. There had been no catastrophic damage to their Digicore, which was fortunate. The only hit they'd taken in battle was the blast from that Royal Knight's cannon, a blow their Berserk Ultimate form took in stride. I can't do this anymore, Eiji said weakly. Eventually his heart and mind would heal. Screaming and gnashing his teeth would leave him too tired to move. He picked up the Digimon linker and put it back on his wrist. Hey, keep that on. That's where I live, Lugamon barked. Code crackers, mind links, digivolutions, what good is any of it? I pushed you too hard, put us in harm's way, and now Leon's gone. All because of me. This isn't the victory I wanted. A notification sound drew Eiji's attention to the Digimon linker. A text message from Tartarus. Excellent work. You're a hero of the SOC. The congratulatory message was a dagger in Eiji's heart. He gave the SOC what they wanted. They told him to punish the hacker judge by any means he saw fit, and he did just that. Judge would no longer interfere with SOC affairs. No other hackers would dare mess with them either. Eiji was a hero. He'd done exactly as Professor Asinji had asked. He'd infiltrated the upper echelons of the SOC to the point where they trusted him with sensitive information. That led him to fight Leon in retaliation. He had to make an example of him. He'd succeeded by every measure, and failed by every measure. He should be DMIA right now, not Leon. He didn't know what the Royal Knight Digimon was or what it wanted, but it was clearly fixated on Eiji and Hulugaramon during the fight. What's causing you to vomit? Hulugaramon asked, jumping down from the loft. The pain. Emotional pain. Why are you in pain? He was my friend, Hulugaramon. My best friend. And he fell into the vortex while he was mindling with Kazuchimon. I don't know what happened to him. No one does. Yeah, it's my fault. It's all my fault. Eiji wailed. There were no laws pertaining to people involved in DMIA incidents. Eiji wouldn't be arrested for putting Leon in a coma, but the Digipolice were likely to have questions. They probably wouldn't try to blame any one person for what the Codecrackers were doing in the digital world. The Codecrackers certainly wouldn't try to pin it on anyone, but there was blame to be placed, and Eiji decided he would shoulder it. You know, I remembered something, Eiji said, his voice raw and hoarse. What? Hulugaramon said, sitting on the floor with a marked thud. We've got something in common. Neither of us can clearly remember. I went to play with Leon down by the river once. I was with my family. We had a barbecue on the riverbank. Did you grill meat? Ooh, I'm hungry, Hulugaramon said. Eiji realized he hadn't fed Hulugaramon today. We played in the river while our parents got barbecue stuff set up. I ended up in a pretty deep part of the river, I guess. Leon told me as much. Our parents called us in for food, but when I tried to swim back, something grabbed my leg. Eiji went under and was swept away by the current. I think it only lasted a few seconds. The riverbed I saw when I drowned and put my face in the water was so clear, so deep, so scary. What happened? Well, if you had died, you wouldn't be here. Leon. That guy who was downstream reached out and caught me. Guess he just happened to be swept away in a place where his feet could reach. I was lucky. At that time, I thought it was terrible. We were both laughing. My parents didn't even notice that I had been swept away. But it was a long time before I saw it on TV. This is the news that an elementary school student died in an accident in the same river. I thought, if I make a mistake too. Leon helped me. Yes, again. Hey, Eiji. What is it? Eiji is stuck in the toilet bowl, unable to look up. This is open. What is that? Ah, the one I got that time. What Hulugaramon showed him was the data box he had received from Pulsemon at the DDL cafe. Eiji flushed the toilet. It was a gift from a hacker, or it had a virus on it, so I ignored it. Food here. It was manga meat data that had been processed to look like Hulugaramon would like it. Really? It was just a present? Looks good. All that's left is a message, a letter. What is it, Pulsemon? Pulsemon, Kazuchimon's whereabouts are unknown. What happened after being engulfed by the turbulent whirlpool? Let's meet again and talk. Pulsemon really did want to be friends with Hulugaramon. Eiji, Hulugaramon said softly. What? I think I might know why I went berserk when I digivolved into Hulugaramon. Will you hear me out? You what? Eiji said, looking down at Pulsemon. I really wanted another chance to fight Pulsemon. They constantly looked down on me, and it was really getting to me. I wanted to get the better of them, and maybe I would have lost. But after I got that extra strength from them... What strength? Eiji said, stopping Hulugaramon. Well, you get better when you take on someone stronger than you. I wanted to keep fighting and then have another conversation with Pulsemon. And I think they wanted the same thing. That's why they gave me this food. They obviously wanted to have another bout and I'd have some food, Hulugaramon said as they tore into the meat, jaws working overtime to keep from dropping any on the floor. So when I digivolved and went feral, I think it's because you didn't quite feel the same way, Hulugaramon said, jaws smacking together. You really wanted to get one over on... this meat is absolutely delicious. Eiji didn't have a response for that. Here he was, taking life lessons from his Digimon, who was more mature than he was. He and Leon could have celebrated their 20th birthdays over drinks in Japan. That would have been fun. You know, I think Pulsemon and I were friends, Lugomon said as they licked the bone clean. Sure, if you think so, why not? Eiji said, stuffing his head back in the toilet. Couldn't bear to face himself in the mirror. Eiji, Lugomon said tentatively. All the emotions welled up inside Eiji, who began openly weeping, his nose soon opening up and mixing with the tears. Do you want to save your friend, Eiji? Lugomon asked. Of course I do. It's my fault he's gone. Eiji wanted to be the one to reach out and pull Leon out of the digital world, just as Leon had pulled him out of the river all those years ago. I want to help Pulsemon too, our friend, Lugomon said solemnly. You said it yourself. Friends are the people you want to go out of your way to help, even if it hurts you. Come on, Eiji heaved between sobs. We'll save them, even if it means facing down a royal knight. We'll play on hard mode for our friends. Alright. I've got 2 more hours left. So we might as well do a quick recap. This is the trailer for this chapter. When we come back, I am going to reset stream. And we're going to start Act 3. Looks like Act 3 only has 12 parts, so... You know what? If I push to midnight, we might actually be able to get through Act 3 tonight. Alright, I'll reset stream and we'll see what we can do. Be right back, folks. If you're watching on Twitch, you will see the stream come back up on the Twitch channel. If you are on YouTube, you'll see the stream come back up on YouTube as a separate video. If you're on TikTok, well, I'm going to go live again here in a bit, but yeah. So, be right back, folks.